Hello, everybody.
Hi,
My name is Braden Turner,
and I'm Lily Poteet.
and welcome back to our third episode of the Prosperity Project. Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for stopping by. We're super excited for this episode, and we think it's going to be an awesome one.
Yeah, so today's episode is about recognizing problems and resources in our district that students of D38 have identified and what we can do to solve them.
So recently, I would say 3 or 4 months ago, so not super recently, but we sent out a form to anyone that wanted to give us feedback, and it kind of just asked them some questions like what specific changes could be implemented to improve student mental health in our district, and if you had any stories you'd like to share with us, or how you could rate the current state of the mental health resources in our district. And we got a lot of feedback. And we kind of looked through a lot of the feedback, and we saw a reoccurring theme through a lot of them, and this kind of related back to the counselors. Now, this may sound bad. It may sound like I'm throwing the counselors under the rug.
Oh,
Um,
I mean,
but that's not what I mean, because I think the counselors at LPHS specifically, I don't know about PR, but I think they're doing an amazing job, especially
yeah,
academically wise. They're like making sure all our schedules are up to date and making sure our grades are up to date for sports and whatnot. And they're really kind people, and they wish us the best. But it seems a lot of these students feel like the counselors haven't made the best connection in terms of the students' mental health. So yeah.
yeah, and I feel like that can definitely take a toll on students as the word counselor, at least when I come to think of it, is just like someone who's there for more social aspects of school rather than academic. But obviously, we can't we can always have both. So I think implementing some more, I guess, effort towards connecting with students on a personal level and just asking them how their mental health is doing and how they're feeling about school and out of school, in and out of school, I think would be really good to at least introduce to LP and PR.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd be a great idea. I might bring it up to Mr. O'Connor and maybe because I know PR already has some stuff. Thomas Fry did some stuff to better the counseling situation regarding mental health.
Yeah.
Um, but I was thinking about bringing it up to Mr. O'Connor and having the counselors every quarter of the year just send out an email to every student in their grade, because obviously every counselor has a specific grade they're working with,
Yeah.
and to every student. And it kind of would just ask them what's going well for them, what's not working, what's negatively affecting their mental health. And then if the student didn't want to respond, that's on them. They don't have to. They can do whatever they want. But if they do, then the counselor, takes note of that and responds and says, okay, here's a bunch of resources, and kind of lets it settle until the next semester, or not semester, sorry, quarter, and then reaches back out and says, hey, last quarter, these were the problems that were affecting you, and this is what working well. Can you let me know how you're doing? And I think having a quarterly system of just counselors checking in on students is such a good idea.
Yeah.
Um,
I totally agree.
yeah,
I feel like that would help us a lot.
yeah. And in the student services area, there also is a woman named Mrs. Sell. She also goes by Debbie, but she's our school psychiatrist. And I don't think a lot of people know about her, but she's such a wonderful person. And she's part of So Coalition, which is a mental health group in the Tri Lakes area that works to just sponsor events regarding mental health and yeah, kind of like that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, she kind of brought me into it along with Miss O'Connor, and she's a wonderful person, and she's there. And if you guys need to reach out to her, she's such a good resource. She's a wonderful woman, and she is our school psychiatrist. So I think she is the best person to reach out for if you're looking for, that super close resource in our school. So
Yeah.
her name is Debbie Sell. She goes, I guess Mrs. Sell. But yeah, she's a wonderful person, and
I
yeah,
agree.
you guys should definitely reach out to them. So
Just nice.
yeah, another topic that I saw a little bit was just pressure, apparently, that was being put on students for academic success.
Yeah. I feel like that's honestly something that at least we all can relate to just a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because of just the social pressures and maybe if our friends are super involved in school and constantly pushing themselves, then obviously we want to push themselves just as much as they are. But I think it can totally have a toll on your mental health, as it's just constant pressure and just trying to keep up with everything and stuff like that. But yeah.
So one of my friends that I went to middle school with, she went to PR, and she reached out to me and she talked about these pressures that were really affecting her. And she said she got hospitalized for personal reasons, and when she came back, she was expected to get all of her assignments that she had missed done within 1 week, or they'd be missing, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's
I don't think
crazy.
there's any other way to put that. Like, prioritizing someone's grades over the fact that they were just hospitalized is it's like frankly like disappointing, you know?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of teachers that totally understand um, that sometimes you can't get assignments in on time or you have
Yeah.
stuff and they're willing to do that. But I feel like the larger majority
Exactly.
has made it like a mission to be like, get your assignments done on time. This is the number one priority, and like you need to find time for this. And like one of my favorite teachers, she was an English teacher. I'm not gonna call her out, even though she's my favorite. But she had a policy where even if you turn stuff in late, she would still give you full credit because she found out through this specific research that by setting a deadline for a lot of these assignments, students were, instead of actually trying to learn the material and grow, they were just worried about getting it on time. And oftentimes that would result in cheating or
Yep.
even plagiarizing and stuff like that. And
Where
so,
it's
yeah,
like obviously it benefits both the student and the teacher if those deadlines are
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know, like not as set,
yeah,
because the teacher is going to get probably better work as it's going to be more
Yeah,
thoughtful.
exactly.
And then the student is
Yeah.
going to not feel rushed and not feel terrible about not turning it in
yeah.
on time and worried about late points.
And I'm not saying obviously like, oh, let's just get rid of deadlines.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But I think and it's not just our district, but I feel like many districts, all around the nation, have this like strict policy that like you have to get it on this deadline. And I think there should be like maybe like a 3-day period, get it in within these 3 days, or like it extends 2 more days after the deadline. And I think that would just allow for students to not only create better work within their homework, but balance their lives better, because a lot of kids are like, oh my goodness, I just got home soccer practice at 9, or I just had my piano lesson or something like that, and they come home at 9, and then they have an hour and a half assignment in something, and then they have another hour and a half assignment, and then by the time they're done it's like 12 or 1, and then, they should be asleep by like 2 hours by then. So I think there's just this like stigma in not only our district, but I think there is a lot of academic stress that has been kind of hovering, and students are expected to meet these kind of unrealistic standards. An hour of homework for every class, like every night. It's just sometimes it's just a little bit ridiculous.
And it also has stuff to do with the future too. I mean, just worried about being competitive enough in academics for college and stuff like that. And I feel like that can have a huge, again, toll on mental health. Just worrying about that. But I mean, I'm trying to think of other ways we can improve that specifically within our district. But I mean,
that's definitely a much bigger problem and doesn't have a specific answer, but it's something to think about. And I think the best thing you can do as a student, if you're struggling with this, is talk to your teacher. And obviously the worst thing they can do is be like, no, and that's obviously not right if you're in the wrong situation. But I think the best thing to do is just be like, hey, I'm really struggling. Now is not the best time. Can I please have a couple extra days? And just try and find that flexibility within your schedule. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that the academic stress is kind of over the top. There's just the stigma that the people's grades are prioritized over everything, over their well-being, over their mental health, which is not right,
And I feel like our counselors could be there for us in that aspect too. I mean, I know LP's counselors are already super good at managing academics, and obviously we want to keep that up. So maybe we could possibly implement a system where like kids could go and like kind of set up like schedules maybe
Yeah.
on just like when to do certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of like, I don't know,
No, that's
just an idea.
no. I like that because I mentioned this in the first podcast a while ago, and he's actually going to be a freshman in college, but he was a senior last year at PR, and I talked to him a little bit, and he implemented this thing called Bear Time at PR, which is like 30 minutes. I don't know if it's every day or every other day, but it's just 30 minutes for students to just interact and have a break from school, which I think is so key, because a lot of times, that 5 minute passing period is not enough, or 10
Yeah.
minutes or whatever it is. And sometimes lunch you don't get to see a lot of your friends. So I think just having 30 minutes where everyone can interact, and even just like using that time to create a schedule. And like if teachers are like, hey, take the first 5 to 10 minutes to create a schedule, then I think that'd be very beneficial to a lot of students. And if students don't want to do that, that's up to them, and then it's on them if it doesn't work out. But just providing that
Specific
option
time, yeah.
and resource for the students, I think is a really good thing.
And
So-
honestly, like, just having something like Bear Time, I think would be super cool to have at LP, because I had it at my old school, where I used to live, and I just remember being super close with that specific teacher that I was assigned to be with, and all the kids who were also in my group, and it just felt like a super safe space. So I don't know. It was like we did a couple of different things. Like we did meditation for the first 5 minutes, and then we just talked, which was honestly really good.
Exactly.
So another problem that students brought up within the forum was just the occurrence of transphobia, homophobia, racism, and then just the occurrence of gossip also just within our district. And I think that happens in a lot of high schools, not just specifically ours, but that doesn't mean that we can't do anything about it as a district. I think we should definitely take initiative of that and make it more of a safe space for everyone, no matter what they identify with.
So obviously, I think the first obvious thing is if you see this happening by anyone, especially if it's reoccurring and consistent, especially if it's directed towards anyone, is to report it.
Yeah.
Because that's, just disgusting, and someone should never be saying anything like this. But you as a person, if you're being targeted for something like this, I think one of the best things you can do is to try and create a group or join a group that raises awareness on these things and, tries to prevent them in the future. I know at Lewis Palmer High School, we have the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance Club, which is by Miss Sell.
And Mrs. Darkman.
Or sponsored by Miss Sell, if I'm not mistaken. And we also have a bunch of other clubs that are oriented towards, a specific group of people, and that, that's their safe place. So please, if you see this happening, I think the best thing you do is report it to a teacher and just get involved in any way you can. I think just getting in a group or starting a group is one of the biggest things you can do. I think starting a group.
Yeah, by all means. I mean, honestly, there's, like, the more awareness you can spread, just the better, so everyone's aware and, wants to create a safe space for everyone.
Yeah, I think if you've been thinking about creating, like, a club or anything, through school or not, I think this should be your sign. Because even, like, in our forum, we got a lot of people saying, I wish we had more student-led clubs relating to mental health, or, it doesn't even have to be around mental health, just, like, benefiting people, I think having a lot of student leadership out there and a lot of student voice is what is missing, and I think that's what we're here to try and do, is just be a student voice, and you guys can listen to us and realize you're not having problems by yourself, and other people are going through the same stuff. So I think just having or starting a group and using your voice, especially through school, is one of the biggest things you can do. So
I totally agree. Easing out of the topic of forum feedback that we received, we just wanted to talk about 988, which is a suicide and crisis lifeline, and it's pretty much the equivalent to 911. And it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's for the U.S. And it was just released today, actually July 16th. And their goal is to improve crisis services and advancing suicide prevention by empowering individuals and then just building awareness, which I think is super cool and super beneficial to our mental health resources.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the most amazing things that covers, all degrees of mental health. It is oriented towards the youth. It's oriented towards minorities. It's oriented towards veterans. And I think whatever you're looking for, if you're really struggling, you should reach out to this, because I think this has been a missing resource for a lot of people. And even just in our forum, some students at our school said an anonymous hotline would be amazing. So if you're feeling like this is a valuable resource, please reach out to them. They're open 24/7. You can either text or call, or if someone you know you think this would be beneficial to, feel free to send it to them, because it just came out today, and I think this is going to be very valuable in the future.
Yeah.
Another resource we wanted to send you guys to was the Office on Women's Health. We'll make sure to leave that in our Instagram caption on our new post. But it's by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and it has numbers that you can call or talk to for almost any form of mental health, trauma, abuse, anything. Like literally, there's a number for anything. I think that's a great place to go to if you're struggling. If you also want to get involved here locally in the Tri-Lake Center, there is So Coalition, which obviously I mentioned before. Lily and I are both a part of that, and we've been a part of that for a while. They host events and they sponsor events relating to mental health. And we had one recently in March called The Monumentaries, which was an amazing film event where we learned about specific students and what they went through regarding their mental health, and it was through film, which I thought was amazing. There's also resources on the Lewis Palmer website as well, so feel free to check that out. There's plenty of resources, and they're local too, which makes it even better. There's easier access. But yeah.
Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate your support. And again, please fill out the form if you have any feedback to give about the current resources and the current state of the D38 district mental health situation.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we can't wait for the next one. Bye.
Bye.